Hello and welcome back to the Stubborn Book Podcast. This is Bernadette. We are doing episode 6, chapter 4. In chapter 4, we continue with the story of the two brothers from the previous chapter. Our transformative boot journal process is introduced here and goes into detail exactly how to do it. So here we go. Let's listen. Chapter 4, Right Hand. How to focus on the 3 fingers pointing back.
The moment when I read Matthew 7:5 on that farm in that heated, seemingly hopeless situation, it changed my life in many ways. It changed the focus of my life's work, from mediating family disputes where everyone would throw stones at each other, to working with each family member and the entire team to evolve who they are and get to the real root of problems. It changed my perspective of how I viewed what happened with my own family, and I realized I still felt like the victim when in actuality I was to blame too. It was time for me to guide farm families from pointing fingers at each other to acknowledging those 3 fingers pointing back and do something about it. For close to a decade now since that moment, I have been doing just that. I've used coaching and advanced tools of habit training and business management to transform bickering, unhappy families into a real team that can take on the world together. There is no perfect way to farm, and there is no perfect way to be. There are many ways to live your life. Everyone has different talents and opportunities. What I care about most is that you don't just have potential and waste it, but tweak the bad habits that hold you back from realizing your dreams by first realizing your fullest potential. Be the best version of yourself, and more critically, be the partner anyone would want to work with. I have simplified the change process into 5 small steps for you so you can start seeing results in your operation right away. To make it easy to remember, I think about it in terms of each of a person's 5 fingers: thumb, pointer, middle ring, and pinky. My 5-finger method looks like this. First step, thumb. We've all hit our thumb when trying to hit a nail into a board. In a similar way, identify those habits you have that are repeatedly messing up your day and make you just want to suck your thumb. Those habits that make you stumble or fall flat on your face. Those habits that your partner or spouse calls you out on too many times. Those habits that make you lose your time, energy, peace, and happiness. Those habits that make you go home in a miserable mood. Remember, this part is about you, not your partner's bad habits. But yes, you are right. What your partner says and does can affect you and ruin your day, but only if you let it. If you want to speed up this self-reflection, take a look at the list we provide in the appendix of the book, or simply download these resources from my website, www.stubborn.farm/resources. It doesn't matter who you are, you can at least find one thing on that list that is a bad habit that if you tweaked it and turned it into a good habit, would make your farm better. Second step, pointer finger. Now you have your list of bad habits. What next? Point to where you want to go. Simply ask yourself the question, who do you want to be? It is time to identify your identity, your new self. If you can get rid of those bad habits and replace them with good habits, if you can turn those weaknesses into strengths, how would you describe your new self? One farmer I recently coached identified several habits, including being late to work, not efficiently prioritizing his work in the shop, and turning molehills into mountains. But he understood the task and broadened his perspective. The truth is that if you were honest with yourself, you could probably come up with at least a dozen things you could work on. But the key is to just pick one and then actually make it happen over the next month. Then take on other improvements once you've got one under your belt. Turning our bad habits into good habits is one thing, but taking off the old and putting on the new self is another thing. This guy wanted to go from an unreliable and angry man to a dependable and good-humored partner and husband. His wife got that mantra engraved on a jackknife. That's who he wanted his family to remember him as, and it is in that new identity that he is continually motivated to stick to his new habits. Third step, middle finger. Because this is the third step, I think of it as the middle finger, and my question to you is how you are going to prevent yourself from falling into the trap where your partners give you the middle finger because you aren't following through with the changes you said you'd make. Probably, if you said you were going to show up to work 5 minutes early and you keep showing up late, your partners will want to give you the finger. So what are those new habits? What are those things that will replace and ultimately get rid of those bad habits you identified in step 1? What will help to point you in the right direction an inch closer to who you want to be, the new self you identified in step 2? You probably graded yourself a couple times with an F when you looked over those lists of bad habits from our resource page. I don't want you to get burnt out or demotivated by choosing the hardest things to change first. Don't get on the top rung of the ladder. Choose the lowest hanging fruit instead. Choose a single weakness that is easy but impactful, that if you turn it into a strength, you will be eager to move on to the next habit change. Let's go back to our previous example. The farmer who was constantly late to work. As a result, he got less done. He screwed up his partner's schedules and lost respect from his partners. What's the good habit he put in place? He was quick to text me back. Value everyone's time, not just mine. Perfect, I replied. This is what he decided to do about it. 1. Set an alarm for 15 minutes before I have to leave the house to go to work. 2. If I am going to be late, text my partners to let them know. 3. Punch in with a time card, even though I am salary, and hold myself accountable. 4. Make sure my phone will be out of reach as soon as I go to bed, so I don't stay up for another hour, wasting my time. 4th step, ring finger. This next step of the process I liken to your ring finger, meaning how are you going to make this habit stick so that it positively impacts your business relationship with your partner for your lifetime? In other words, what is it going to take to make this marriage work? You can think of this as an analogy to being in business or your actual marriage. It comes down to spending 5 minutes every day, writing out your goals twice, and evaluating how you did at the day's end. That's it, and nothing more. These 2 minutes in the morning and 3 minutes at night, jotting down your goals can, in fact, change everything for you. But let me say this up front. Most farmers I work with find journaling one of the hardest things to turn into a habit. It usually takes a couple months for them to even come around to the idea. And I'm certainly not one to judge, because 25 years ago I would have said this is a bunch of hogwash. Well, guess what? I am not farming today because my dad and I got lost in the hogwash and didn't focus on what really mattered. Writing out your goals will bring what you want most into focus every day. I call it the boot journal. I call it the boot journal because I recommend keeping a notebook in the spot where you sit down to put your boots on and take them off daily. This notebook can simply be a cheap, 97-cent, spiral-bound, pocket-sized composition book. Nothing fancy. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of doing this beside your boots, not by your coffee maker, bedstand, or desk. Otherwise, it will never happen on busy days. You sit down in that spot twice daily, and it's at a time when sitting down for an extra minute isn't going to throw off your day's schedule. We need to make this process as easy as possible so that writing out your goals before you put your boots on in the morning, and then again, before you take them off at night, just makes sense. It needs to become part of your everyday life. Using the same farmer example from the previous steps, he now takes an extra few minutes in the morning to write out 2 simple things. The mantra of who he wants to be, dependable and good-humored partner and husband, and the new habit he chose to help him get there, value everyone's time, not just mine. Then when he is done for the day and sits down to take his boots off, he will write these 2 things out again and add 1 extra minute to grade himself from A to F on how well he implemented them that day. If he was late for work by only a couple minutes, he would give himself a D. If he was late to work by more than a few minutes and didn't text his partners he was running late, he would give himself an F. By scoring himself daily, it has slowly changed his behavior, whereby instances of him coming late to work have been fewer and farther between each other, and his partners have been commenting on how he has become so much more dependable. Whatever the outcome is for you, end the day on a good note. At the very least, you accomplished this reflective moment to do better tomorrow, and that is something to celebrate. Journaling for many feels like a waste of time, and something maybe that is even embarrassing for a few. However, it's hard to deny the power that it holds. Journaling is scientifically proven to reduce stress, improve cognitive function, and help you reach your goals. In fact, scientists found the simple act of writing out your goals activates the part of the brain that is used for sorting what's important. So, when you write down your new identity and your new habit, your brain is literally being trained to focus on them. With New Year's resolutions, 60% of people abandon them within 6 months, and more than 25% abandon them within 7 days. But scientific studies have shown that you are 42% more likely to achieve your goals if you write them down. Writing your goals down not only forces you to get clear on what exactly it is that you want to accomplish, but doing so plays a part in motivating you to complete the task necessary for your success. The act of writing out what you want to become keeps you focused on what absolutely matters, and you are thus less likely to get trapped in the emotions of day-to-day operations. Don't worry about spelling or grammar when you journal. This exercise is only for you to read, not for others. Recently, I had a Zoom meeting to check up with a farmer in Kansas who had promised 2 months ago to his partners that he was going to write out his new habit every day, which was recognize one little win each day. The honest truth when I pressed him on it was last month he didn't do it. Instead, he put a yellow sticky note on the doorway to his office with that slogan. And for a few days, he honestly tried to make changes in his behavior. But then he got mired down in the chaos of day-to-day operations and reverted to his old ways. I put all the professional capital I had with him on the line and said, just do this for a month and see how it will change your life. Over the next month, he finally did it. He still is crusty from time to time, but you could just see by his 2 sons' expressions on their faces what a different guy he had become. Neurolinguistic programming, NLP, is like a toolkit for your mind that helps you understand and change your thoughts and behaviors. When it comes to transforming bad habits into good ones, daily journaling is like your personal coach. By writing down your thoughts and feelings every day, you become more aware of your habits and triggers. This awareness helps you stay focused on your goal of changing those habits. It's like shining a flashlight on the things you want to change, making it easier to replace the bad habits with good ones over time. So NLP helps you understand your mind, and daily journaling is your practical tool for staying on track with your habit transformation journey. It really doesn't matter to me what new habit you choose as long as it happens. And it's never going to become reality until you change the underlying habit of setting up the framework for your mind as you put your work boots on to go to work and come home from work. From years of bringing this journaling exercise to the table for farmers, I can firmly say the science of journaling is profound. Words hold the power to change minds. When your words form your story, they have the power to change your life. It's that simple yet that profound. Last step, pinky. This last part of the process involves all your partners, and I like to think of it as your pinky swear. To change your business culture and your partnership for the better, it takes everybody joining in on changing themselves. Pretty straightforward, but not straightforward to do. Like so many other things in life, things don't start to happen until you make the first move. Change starts with you. But part of this process of continuous self-improvement is making your partners aware of your efforts, making them understand that you are making that first move, that you are ready and willing to see this partnership become better and stronger. The pinky swear involves a few commitments. An easy way for you to show your partners that you are serious about making a change in your behavior is to make a pledge, a pinky swear, so to speak. Say to your partners, if you don't see me make this one habit change this month, the next time we go to the local diner, I have to tip the waitress $100. Then invite them to provide their feedback and accountability. How am I doing? Should be a monthly question you ask your partners. Put yourself out there. The worst case scenario is that you are going to have to tip your waitress $100. That accountability will sting, but in the next month, whatever habit you choose to take on as a challenge, you'll probably do everything you can to not lose that money. In this humbling process, perhaps you will learn a better way to kick that old habit, or better yet, everyone sees your improvement and your partners want to jump on board as well. This is the ripple effect, and is one of the best parts of the whole process. I'm not going to guarantee that your partners will follow suit, but they most probably will. That is because you first put yourself out there and demonstrated leadership through action, not just words. And if your family can get in the habit of going out for a breakfast meeting monthly and have that friendly thread of each partner having to tip the waitress $100, your business will have a lot of positive changes within a year.
Family business is emotional.
This whole habit training and goal journaling process I just outlined might all sound great in theory, and you hopefully are convinced by now of how life-changing it is. But I am going to be my own devil's advocate here. It does have the power to turn around any family business, but your biggest hurdle will likely be your family business. It is way too easy to make excuses and rationalize bad habits when you are in a toxic family environment where your family members irritate you daily. You rationalize your bad habits. If he does this, then I am justified to do that. On a family farm, or really any family business, we don't just inherit teacups in the family business from grandma. We form and inherit bad habits and false beliefs starting from childhood. and we bring those into our business partnership and our marriage. When something is so ingrained into our DNA, it is nearly impossible to change. Whether it's a bad temper that you learned from your grandpa who was a Korean War vet with PTSD, or you have a hard time being empathetic because your dad taught you to just suck it up because his girl doesn't cry. It all adds up. Like inheriting genes, these bad habits are traits we inherited innocently. However, like cancer, these are things that must be addressed so they don't become problematic and ruining your life. To do the nearly impossible, you have to rewire your mind. It's easier said than done. If you got a new job in a new state, it would be 10 times easier to change a bad habit. However, for a farm kid, you're probably in the family business you grew up in, and where many of your current bad habits were formed. You probably grew up playing with toys beside your mom's desk, while she did the farm's bookkeeping and played in the sandpile while dad did the chores. And like most farm kids, your first real job as a teenager was in the family business, working alongside your parents and cousins. If you worked in a completely new workplace and a stranger told you that you need to step up and change this so-and-so bad habit, it is more than likely that you will take that advice and do what is necessary to keep your position. However, it is not so for a family business. A family member telling you that you need to do something differently can easily get you off track. Or in other words, nagging you, bossing, controlling, belittling, screaming, arguing, and so on. It is easy to make excuses for your bad habits. For example, you might be in a partnership with an uncle with whom you have had more than 20 years of friction. The emotional baggage of all those past issues would come into play if he dared to tell you that you needed to change. It's like an unlit match. Yes, it does pose a danger, but if it's beside a fuel tank, emotional baggage affiliated with working with your uncle in the past, it's 10 times more dangerous. Family businesses are 10 times more emotionally charged than other workplaces, and our emotions often cause us to become derailed from achieving our ultimate goals. As a 12-year-old boy, I rode my grandpa's huge Clydesdale bareback, using just a bridle to steer him. I weighed 90 pounds and that horse weighed 2,000. He could have easily done whatever he wanted to do, but I controlled him using just that bridle bit. However, sometimes I would just try to save time and jump on that horse in the middle of the pasture field, trying to steer that horse without a bridle. That horse might listen a little bit, but ultimately he would do whatever he wanted. Ultimately, I'd be sitting out in the middle of a hayfield with that horse chewing on the grass or running down the road scared because he did whatever he felt like doing, and almost always, it was not what I wanted. This relates to life too. How often do our emotions put us in a spot we don't want to be? Numerous scientific studies have proven that more than 90% of our decisions are emotional, not rational. As redneck farmers and businessmen and women, we often convince ourselves that we aren't woke and are a lot more level-headed than the average person in society. But make no mistake about it, family businesses are emotional. The truth is, within a family business, we are even more vulnerable to making decisions based on emotion, far more than we realize or ever care to admit. Farming empires are built by decades of rational behavior and fall apart with just a few moments of emotions, causing irrational decisions to be made. Like my dad plowing my crops under in a fit of rage and jealousy. Think of how one critical comment from a parent can cause you to get irrationally angry and go for days without speaking to each other. And I have met too many people who have gone years without speaking. Our rational behavior is like that 90-pound boy, and our emotional behavior is like that huge Clydesdale horse who is suddenly spooked by a sound and runs straight for the hills without a bridle at a full gallop with you holding onto its mane for dear life. How often do you know what you should do or what needs to happen, but you find yourself misguided by your emotions and stuck in a place you don't want to be because you don't have control over what you do? Control starts with admitting and identifying what causes you to become derailed. Control starts with empowering yourself by ripping off your old self and putting on your new identity. Control starts with new habits that will get you a step closer to who you want to be. Control starts with rewiring your mind and making your goals concrete on paper and eventually in the business. The first decision of your day as you lace up your boots is to put that bridle into the horse's mouth by writing out your goals. If you don't, the horse, your emotions, will go wherever it wants to go. As my grandpa used to say, are you controlling that horse, or is that horse controlling you? The answer to that question will dictate where you go in life.